and I'm glad here that we've got representatives of the Kashmiri people. Can I first welcome and ask Nazir Qureshi Sahab from the World Kashmir Freedom Movement to say a few words. Nazir Qureshi Sahab.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies and dear brothers, I would express my thanks for inviting me today here. I'm sorry for being late a bit, as I was also busy in some other meeting. Justice and peace in Kashmir. Peace is never possible without justice. Kashmiris are struggling and have been struggling for more than 60 years for the justice. Instead of justice, they get torture, persecution, molestation, and detention. People of Kashmir have always supported peace process. They have supported dialogue between the parties. But we know that bilateral dialogues have never been fruitful for our cause, whether they were between India and Pakistan or they were between India and Kashmiri leaders. There is need that two representatives of people of Kashmir must be included in the dialogue. I would also request that peace in South Africa, South Asia is never possible until this problem is solved. For this, India has to leave its historical obstinacy. India has to create, it has to show sincerity for the peace. It has to stop violation of human rights in Kashmir, which so far we have never observed in Kashmir. Also, free interaction between the people across the border, across the ceasefire line is need of the hour for the solution of this conflict. I would also like to mention here that international organizations, especially humanitarian organizations, they are not being allowed by India to work freely in Kashmir, where thousands of people, widows, orphans are suffering. So we request international community to impress upon India to allow these organizations to work there freely. And I would also request Pakistan, not only our advocate, but a party to this issue, to step to their historical stand. Wavering indicates lack of confidence, which create confusion. So their support, Kashmiri people, we extend our gratitude to Pakistan for their moral and diplomatic support. Thank you for giving me time.
Thank you very much, Nazir Qureshi. I have to say, and no apologies to our parliamentarians, as I said before, since Lord Ahmed took the baton as the chair of the All-Parliamentary Committee for Kashmir, a number of parliamentarians are now vividly coming to meetings. I remember seeing Brian only last week at a similar event. Can I, because I know Brian has to leave as well, welcome Dr. Brian Eden, another long-standing friend of Pakistan and Kashmir, to say a few words at this conference on justice and peace for Kashmir. Can you all welcome Brian? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to the organisers, including our all party groups, for organising this conference today. On what is a very busy day in Parliament, Wednesdays are always a turmoil of meetings for members of Parliament. And I'm actually speaking at 4 o'clock in another meeting on the floor above, so please excuse me for leaving early. And excuse me too if you've heard my stand on Kashmir before. I'm pretty consistent in what I say. And of course we all want justice for all Kashmiris on whichever side of the divide they now find themselves, because I know families are split by this conflict. And I'm a friend of Southeast Asia, by which I mean I'm a friend of all people of Kashmir especially, but I'm a friend of India and a friend of Pakistan, and I want to see peace in Southeast Asia altogether and an end particularly to this conflict. But I have to say this is not a good time to bring the parties around the table, in my opinion. And when I say bring the parties around the table, I don't just mean bilateral talks between India and Pakistan. The people of Kashmir in the future have got to be represented at any talks which might solve this long-standing dispute. The problem as I see it is this, that in Southeast Asia we have a major conflict in Afghanistan, next door to Pakistan. And that is washing over. I mean, the evidence is clear for all to see. It is causing Pakistan a lot of trouble. And also, Pakistan has been in and out of military rule, more in military rule than out of it. And at the moment, we're out of it, fortunately. And I want to see a government in Pakistan which is sustained with a true democracy running well into the future, without the military having to take control again, because every time the military take control in Pakistan we lose that vital element of democracy, mainly, not entirely. There are still the village councils and so on, I know that. But the problem is that Pakistan is facing in the direction of Afghanistan at the moment and has tremendous problems as a result of that. Undoubtedly under pressure from countries like this one, and particularly the United States, to do something about those terrorists, in inverted commas, that had fled Afghanistan and are now finding some home in Pakistan, not to mention a minority of Pakistanis who are causing troubles themselves, whether they are opponents of the present government or supporters of the Taliban or whatever. There is huge turmoil in Pakistan. So how can Pakistan sit round a table at the moment in a position of strength and talk to a large country like India? It's very difficult for Pakistan to do that. Not to mention, of course, the Kashmiris who should be involved in this as well. So I feel very sorry at this particular moment in history for all Kashmiri people, because we have that difficulty to resolve before we can. I'm not saying we can't have talks about peace in Kashmir, to do hopefully what the Kashmiris want to do. The plebiscite is still a United Nations resolution that Kashmir is raised with nearly every meeting like this. But I think I have to say again that it's a very, very difficult situation to get fruitful peace talks moving at the moment between Pakistan, India and the representatives of the Kashmiri people. And of course we have been focused on other disputes in the world, not to mention the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which I also pay attention to, and I have to apologise to you because I've spent far more time looking at that conflict and trying to resolve that in my small way, in concert with other people who are very concerned about the injustice of the injustice of the Kashmiris is bad enough, but the injustice that the Palestinians are suffering at the moment is certainly equally, if not worse, in terms of a lack of justice to them. So a lot of us in Parliament have been focusing on the Middle East. So there are a lot of difficulties for us, but I'm about to retire from Parliament at the next general election. My successor is a Pakistani barrister by the name of Yasmin Qureshi. I talked to Yasmin about this conflict with others as well, and her political thinking is aligned with mine, certainly on Kashmir. So I'm very pleased to end my little discourse by saying that I am leaving you, ladies and gentlemen, in safe hands. And I know that my successor will campaign probably harder than I have actually, although I've done my best. And I have visited the region and I hope to visit it again. I was party to trying to release Koyum Raja early from prison. Some of you will remember the incident in Birmingham that caused Mr. Riaz and Mr. Raja to be put in prison, but that wasn't the injustice mainly. The injustice was that two Conservative Home Secretaries put 10 years extra on their sentence, and that is what I found very unjust, and I campaigned against it.